Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. We are in part two of my TEDx story. So if you missed last week's podcast episode, I shared the huge news that I am going to be giving a TEDx talk at the end of this month if you're listening to this live. I wanted to record this four-part series that talked through the phases that I went through to not just have the idea to give a TEDx talk, but the things that I had to work through for me personally to even apply, and then to get through the process and really be at this part of the journey, which is the milestone is here. It's right around the corner. It's happening in just a few weeks, and I have all the feels. One of the things that I'm really highlighting over these 4 weeks is overachievers, and all humans are driven very often by different stress archetypes. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Some of our most primitive responses are driven by our stress archetypes. And this is normal. It's actually a very common thing to experience stress when you're pursuing things. However, overachievers especially start taking stress, which is useful in small doses, and it turns into the fuel with which we're making all of our life decisions. One of the things that you will hear me say very often is we don't need a stress-free life. If we could wave a magic wand and change some of our circumstances, yes, we absolutely would. But the second best option is to take complete control back over how we respond to the circumstances that we're in. This is the entire purpose of understanding your stress archetype. What we can do is have the skills and tools where we don't feel like we're a victim to our circumstances. Last week's episode shared the TEDx reveal, which has been on my mind for the past many months. But also we talked about this idea of why overachievers squash their dreams. You get bit by an inspiration bug with this idea of a goal you have, and then immediately you might notice your overachiever brain comes up with all the reasons that it probably won't work. And because we are marinating in our natural negative bias, a lot of overachievers will talk themselves out of the big dream. If you want to hear how I overcame my own hesitation to apply for TEDx, go back to last week's episode and take a listen. This week's episode is all about the decision and the downfall. So I finally got to the place, as I shared at the end of last week, that I realized that this idea that I wanted to share on a TEDx stage felt important and big enough that it was worth me facing my fear of failure. I was willing to face the possibilities of rejection because this idea felt important enough to me. I got a lot of excitement and almost relief at the decision itself. When I said, I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to pursue this seriously, I got a lot of excitement. It's like, when you decide at the very start of a new year, like, this is the year I'm going to achieve my health or weight loss goal, or maybe on your birthday, the start of a week, we all have that high of excitement and motivation when we decide on something. That's how I felt when I first made the decision to apply to TEDx. But here is where the downfall happened. This might sound obvious, but somehow it caught me off guard. The downfall came with the actual work and effort it took. I keep saying that my weight loss and health journey very much prepared me for the TEDx journey that I've been on this past year, but this is exactly what happened for me when I decided to lose the weight I wanted to lose. The decision at the start of a week or start of a year was very exciting for me. But then came the more mundane, tedious, boring work to actually achieve the goal, to make my nutrition plan, to decide when I was going to go for a walk or exercise, to actually meal plan and meal prep, to delegate things, to actually put the health activities I needed on my calendar in a very real way was tedious and boring. So I say this because when I experienced this with the TEDx talk, I had that feeling of, oh, that's what's happening right now. I wanted this to be its own episode because I think overachievers make the mistake of believing that achieving the goal, your health goal or a goal like this, speaking on stage, that it needs to feel exciting or motivating all the time. When the reality is, having the goal and the inspired idea might be exciting, but the actual consistent work to achieve the goal is usually anything but. When you don't feel motivated or excited or that completely lit up feeling, we believe that maybe this is not the right goal for me. Where's my excitement? Where's my motivation? Where's that aligned hell yes feeling for me to take action? But if you really think about it, the activities it takes to achieve a goal requires repetition. And by definition, repetition is a little tedious and boring. Here's how I caught myself in this part of my TEDx journey. So once I made the decision to apply for TEDx And I started looking into how I would do it. I reached out to friends and colleagues that had gone through the process. I found myself a mentor that I wanted to work with that could help guide me through the entire experience. I got to the place where I started actually doing the application work, where I was answering questions about my idea. And this is when I noticed my brain wanting to procrastinate with all of the other things except this. I didn't just procrastinate with scrolling my phone and watching Netflix, though I absolutely did that too. I found other more productive tasks that I needed to do as well. I call this procrasti-working. So I would call for doctor's appointments for the kids, or start cleaning out my pantry, or go into my email inbox and start cleaning that out. I found either productive tasks or non productive tasks, basically anything but the actual TEDx activities that I had to do, simply because my brain did not want to do the tedious, boring, repetitive work. Here's the thing that's so amazing. I caught myself because I experienced this with weight loss as well. I remember when I was on my journey of losing 60 pounds, the very first half of that weight loss journey was very exciting. When you see the number on the scale come down week after week, when you start getting your energy back and you're feeling amazing and you have a nutrition strategy that genuinely feels like a lifestyle, you feel like you've hit the lottery. But at some point along the way, particularly when you get near or at maintenance, the excitement goes away. The number on the scale is not changing very much. It's not so exciting. And now you're basically left with the simple, tedious, slightly boring tasks that actually maintain your results. I remember when I was on my weight loss journey, this is when my brain started to go off track. I found small ways to procrastinate on my health activities. I didn't meal plan the way that I said I would. I would take breaks from the gym and take breaks from my nutrition strategy, all in small moments, simply because my brain was craving novelty and excitement. But I remembered even in that journey, when I did that, when I stopped doing the boring, tedious activities, the health activities that guaranteed my goal, I started gaining the weight back. My energy dipped. How I felt in my body started to feel worse. And so the lesson I learned, and again, this was $1 million skill that I had to learn, I started to see that procrastination habit as simply a tiny way that my brain was looking for novelty. So the most important lesson I learned on my health and weight loss journey that didn't just get me to the 60-pound goal mark, but has helped me maintain that result for the last 7, 8 years now through many messy seasons and ups and downs, is to stop making boring a problem. I needed to find my excitement, novelty, and joy in other ways. Now, this is going to push the overachiever. When you're really busy and you have a very full life and a very full calendar, part of the reason that we default to snacking and scrolling is because we haven't really built in time or space for joy. We think it's frivolous. You think you might have to earn it. You have to finish your entire to-do list before you really give yourself a break. We have podcast episodes on all of this over the last few weeks and months, so you can go back and search these. But what I have really found is part of the reason that we go completely off track with our health goal or even a goal like this is our brains are craving novelty and excitement. And if we don't give it to ourselves on purpose, we start stealing it in small ways. That's why we ever procrastinate. So because I had gone through this journey with weight loss and I've basically become a little bit of a detective with myself, I use procrastination or procrasti-working almost as a little siren song for myself whenever I notice myself doing it, that I'm clearly craving some joy, some fun and excitement, and I need to put that onto my calendar. And it's worth letting ourselves feel bored and doing the tedious thing because the goal matters to us that much. What's really important about this mindset pivot and why that language matters is it takes you out of needing brute willpower or discipline. So here's the fork in the road. There will always come a moment where the motivation is gone, the excitement is gone, and your brain is craving novelty. This is typically when the overachiever will want to procrastinate or procrasti-work. What a lot of overachievers will do in this moment is we will start telling ourselves a sentence like, I have to do this. I'm supposed to do this. I should be doing this. And when you start telling yourselves sentences like that, we actually stress ourselves out more. Our cortisol levels go up. And when your body's experiencing this stressed state, guess what happens? Your urges to procrastinate, snack, scroll, go down sideways decisions goes up even more. So you'll hear me say very often that discipline and brute willpower doesn't really work if you want sustainable results. What we're talking about is the alternative fork in the road. So when you experience that dip in excitement or motivation and you notice the desire to procrastinate, this is the moment I recommend you just take a quick pause. You have to remind yourself that you're just feeling bored. You can handle the feeling of boredom. It's not too much for you. You've done it before. And you have to promise yourself that you'll give yourself some fun, joy, and excitement later in the day or that week. And this is the part that really matters. take action and do the tedious, boring thing, no matter what your mood of the moment is. This is the thing that I realized in my TEDx journey. I kind of had this crazy expectation that I would be feeling excited and motivated all the time because this is such a huge dream for me. But I forgot that that's not the normal human condition. It's really easy, actually, to have a very big dream and to have a bold idea. A lot of people do. But the thing that makes the difference between people that just have ideas and the ones that go and turn them into reality is the willingness to do the tedious, boring work, the parts that really do take real effort and push you to that moment that also moves the needle forward. We've talked about this concept before on the podcast, but I really wanted to highlight this both in my health and weight loss journey and in the TEDx journey. Overachievers really make this mistake. When we feel that dip of motivation or excitement, we somehow think that something's going wrong. Start catching where you're doing this with your goal. This is $1 million skill, and it is truly a skill that is going to move you forward in literally every area of your life. Get really good at doing the tedious, boring thing. You don't actually need to be excited or motivated to do what you said. And here's the secret sauce best part about this entire process and why this one episode is so important for me and why I wanted to share it with you. When you actually do the tedious, boring thing and you let yourself take action, even in those moments that you don't feel like it, the way you feel on the other side is, guess what? Excited and motivated. When you do the thing you were avoiding, or when you get done the tedious, boring thing that you had been putting off, you feel so good. You feel proud, you feel successful, you feel like you experienced a win, and that in itself releases dopamine. So a lot of times overachievers are waiting for the motivation and excitement first. And what this episode is all about is you're going to get the motivation and excitement, but it's going to be on the other side of doing the tedious, boring, effortful thing. This was absolutely phase 2 for me in my TEDx story, in my entire journey. There were so many points last year when I was applying, and rather than applying, I would find myself scrolling my phone, or I would find myself cleaning out the laundry basket, just because my brain did not want to do what felt tedious and boring. And the part that still blows my mind is this is something that I have been thinking about for years, excited about for years. How can something that I felt so excited about also turn into something that felt boring? This is exactly how. Just remember, our brains are craving novelty and excitement, but we have to access the more evolved part of our brain that leans into doing the boring thing. And honestly, I'm telling you, because now I've experienced it with both weight loss and now I've experienced it here with TEDx, getting really, really good at taking action despite your mood of the moment, even if it's boring, even if it's annoying, even if it's tedious, gives you joy and excitement and so much pride on the other side. This is simply a skill that you can practice. It's $1 million skill. I'm telling you, once you get this one in your toolbox, it will start to change every corner of your life, not just the one goal you have right now. And you get to teach the next generation. If you have kids, let me tell you, you're going to teach them too. I hope you enjoyed this part of my TEDx story because there were many, many boring moments. And once I started seeing the pattern, it was impossible not to see. And it really did help me get back on track with my entire application process. Next week, I'm going to talk about the many epic fails, the many rejections, the disappointment. That part of the story is maybe one of the most important, and I can't wait to share it with you. And before I leave you today, I have a stress quiz that can help you identify your stress archetype. You can head over to burnstressloseweight.com/stress. This quiz is going to take you through a few questions. It takes just a few minutes, but it will leave you with a stress archetype. We all have more than one archetype at play, but you usually have one predominant archetype that is calling the shots. And what I have found is just catching and knowing what your stress archetype is how you get control back. Head over to burnstressloseweight.com/stress, take the quiz, and then head over to your email inbox where I will email you with the results page and resources that can help you walk through what your stress archetype is. I'll see you at next week's episode, my friends.